I don't know about you guys, but I hate all of those videos that people make where they're always trying to tell you what you should do in a perfect world, but no one ever actually shows you how to execute on it. So in this video, I'm going to go over exactly the 3 steps that I would take if I was starting Turo in 2023. It's going to be incredibly detailed, and I'm actually going to show you how to do these things. So we're going to break it down every step of the way, everything from understanding your liability to insurance, picking the right card. So stick with me throughout the whole thing and let's get into it. So I absolutely had to make this video because in 2022, I've seen so many hosts that have gotten started on Turo and they sort of rushed into it and maybe didn't do all the things that they should have to prepare. And they have gotten themselves into some pretty bad positions by overpaying for cars or maybe choosing the wrong cars to list on Turo. So I really wanted to make this video because I don't want to see anyone end up in that position, because quite honestly, it sort of makes me feel sad. So let's go over the 3 steps that you absolutely should take before you get started. The number 1 step is to educate yourself. This is so important. Why? Because Turo's system is actually quite intricate. There are a lot of nuances, fine details that you absolutely have to get right. Otherwise, you expose yourself to a lot of financial liability. And in a second, we're going to walk outside to my Audi and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about, because this video isn't just about what you should do, but it's actually about how you're going to do it. And I'm going to lead by example by showing you. So educating yourself is so important because it's going to teach you about the details about operating on Turo so that you can do it correctly. Now, the entire system is actually very easy. Once you learn how to have a car on Turo, how to rent it out properly, it's super easy to manage, but you just have to learn the fine details. Now, how do you educate yourself? It's so easy these days in comparison to when I started 8 years ago and information was literally non-existent. Number 1, you can go to Turo's website and their help center is fantastic. You can see here that you can go to their website. They have an entire host section that is going to walk you through every little detail about hosting on Turo. Everything from insurance, how to get started, how to list your car, and this is all for free. So it's extremely easy to kind of navigate through and learn about what Turo has to say about hosting on their platform. Now, of course, that's coming from the side of Turo. So you may want to take it a step further, and I highly recommend this, and learn about Turo and hosting on Turo from an actual Turo host, because their perspectives are different. While I respect the help center a ton, in fact, till this day, I use it all the time to double check policies, to double check the way things are supposed to be done. But learning from a perspective of a host is fantastic because it gives you a perspective on the business that is from the shoes of somebody actually doing it day in and day out. And there are so many ways to get that. You can obviously go on YouTube. There's tons of people making content. You can learn from my channel as well. I have a fantastic playlist on the homepage called Turo 101, and it's going to walk you through everything you need to know, especially when you're just getting started. Now, whatever method you choose to learn, one thing I highly recommend, and this is extremely important, is that you please choose someone that has been in the Turo business for at least 5 years. Why is that important? It's so important because what a lot of newer hosts don't know yet, and it's just from a lack of experience, is that Turo is a very long tail business, meaning when you get into a car, you are typically committed for at least 3 to 5 years. And when you host a car on Turo for 3 to 5 years, you are really experiencing different things and scenarios happen to your vehicles than you experience in year 1, 2, or 3 of having a new car. What does that mean exactly? That means, when you have a new car and it's your first year on Turo, cars are new, they don't have that many problems, they're easy to host, you can just go in and out of every trip. Well, over the long run, once cars begin to accrue a lot of miles, they get more utilization, you start running into a different set of problems. So when you learn from a host that has has been doing this for at least, 5 years, I would say, then you really get the true picture of what it looks like long term. And then you can decide on what your strategy is going to be as a Turo host. So that is really going to give you a good broad spectrum picture of exactly how the business is run. And again, it's so important because for somebody who's been doing it for 6 months or maybe a year, they just haven't put in enough reps yet to know what it's like to host 1,000 trips, 2,000 trips, 3,000 trips, and to really run a car for many, many miles and deal with all that comes with it. So you want to choose wisely. Now, a great thing that you can do for that as well is when you go onto Turo and you look at host profiles, you can actually see when they started hosting on their profile. So right away, you'll know who is seasoned, who's a veteran, especially if they have good reviews. You'll know who knows how to actually run the business. Now, if you want to learn more about the A to Z's of, hosting on Turo, you can check out my website, powerhost.club. I have an entire course from my 8 years of experience. I'm running a Black Friday promo this year with the promo code Turo25, so I'll give you 25% off the course. And again, listen, you don't have to do that because there's so much information. So it just really depends on how you prefer to learn, and you can really learn the structure. Now, going back to why it's so important to learn the nuances, I'm going to show you guys exactly how. So let's go outside and take a look at my Audi. All right, guys, so here's what I mean about Turo being a very sort of intricate and detail-oriented business. Now, let's just say my Audi, I'm getting it ready to go on a trip. Now, if you read Turo's website about, checking in and out of a trip, they're going to tell you you need to take 10 to 15 photos of your car, documenting its condition to get ready for a trip. Now, for all my host friends who have been doing this for quite a few years, we all know that 10 to 15 photos is not nearly enough. And here's what I mean by that. You want to document every corner of your vehicle. So for example, let's say I take a picture right here in this shot. Now, what I didn't get is kind of like the rounded edge of the bumper. And let's say the Audi goes out on a trip and that's where it gets hit. But I didn't have that picture because I didn't take a picture from this down low. And guess what? When I go and file that claim with Turo, they're not going to cover it. So when you are checking your car in for a trip, I typically take anywhere between 40 to 50 and sometimes even 60 photos of my car so that you document literally every inch of the vehicle so that you are fully covered. And I mean inside and out is extremely important. Like, seasoned Turo hosts know that you want to get all your interiors, your front seats, your back seats. You want to get your dash, your windshield in case the windshield gets cracked. So that's how detailed it has to be. But you don't really know that unless you've done this for a while and you realize, hey, there's no way 10 to 15 photos is enough because I got to document my rims, I got to document my tires, my interior, my exterior. It makes a huge difference. Now, I want to definitely emphasize the fact that yes, I am talking about taking, 50 photos for every check-in and every checkout. And it might sound like a lot, but I promise you, once you learn how to actually operate the Turo system, it's so easy and is actually not that time consuming. So for example, taking pictures for your car when you're checking it in or checking it out in the way that I just described, 50 photos literally will not take you more than 2 to 3 minutes to do. It becomes so fast once you become seasoned and you know how to do it. So the key things that you really want to educate yourself about when you are kind of prepping yourself to get started on Turo is how does insurance work? How do claims work? How do you properly check in and check out a car for a trip with making sure that you have the best documentation? So these are the main things that would expose you to any risk or liability is if you didn't do the right type of documentation or maintain your car in the proper safety conditions that Turo requires. So again, you can go to the homepage of my YouTube channel. I have a beginners playlist that will walk you through it. My course will walk you through it, but those are the things that you want to look out for because that's where your risk lives. But if you learn it, you will almost never run into those issues. If you're liking this video so far, it would mean so much to me if you hit that like button. All right, step number 2. you are going to begin a 90-day period of market research. So what does that mean? Now we're going to make the assumption you've done the education bit and you're going to continue to educate yourself, but now you have a good feel for, okay, I understand what the business is about. I kind of can see what my upside is and I can kind of see where any financial risk might lie. And I know exactly what to do to protect myself. So now I'm going to start thinking about, well, what cars would I love to list on Turo? What cars perform well on Turo, and which car ultimately is going to make me the most money. And you're going to think about cars that are maybe aspirational, like you would ideally love to have this car so that you can enjoy it and you could list it on Turo and renters would enjoy it. Or maybe your mindset is, listen, I just want to go for what's practical and that's going to make me the most money. I don't really care what that car is as long as it makes mathematical sense. Or maybe you already have a car that you own that you're thinking about listing, but you just want to go about it the right way and get a really good gauge and understand exactly how well that car could potentially perform. So that's why you need to do 90 days of market research. 90 days is so important because there are seasons to Turo, which means that there are ups and downs. The two main seasons are from April to August and then October to December. So basically you're looking at the main part of summer and then the holidays, right? That's when Turo performs really well. That's what makes doing research right now especially the best time, because you're going to go into this period that's going to be in between the seasons of Turo, which is the perfect time to do market research, get a good understanding for what's going to work well. And that's what we're going to dive into. So if you're saying to yourself, okay, great. Well, I did the education bit. I understand. And now I want to think about buying a car. Firstly, how do I even know what I can afford? And like I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, one of the first places where you can start to get that fundamental understanding of what you could potentially afford, so then you can figure out which cars would fit in that budget, is by looking at a car payment affordability calculator. Now, NerdWallet, as you guys can see here on my screen, has a fantastic calculator that you can use, and you can more or less kind of get a gauge for what you can afford monthly payment wise, APR wise, and what your overall budget is. So you can kind of toggle all of these elements that you see here on the screen, and you can kind of get an idea for, okay, if you have a $300 car payment, that means you're looking at a car that is roughly, let's say, $13,564. So these are kind of the different things that you can do to figure out what it is that you can afford based on your credit score, how long the length of the term is that you're going to finance for or lease for. And this is going to give you a gauge. Let's say based on the income that you make, you're really just comfortable with maybe having something that is a $460 payment. So that's going to put you in a certain budget of a vehicle that you want to purchase. So that's if you kind of don't have a gauge of what your affordability is. This is one of the places you can go to kind of understand, well, what can I afford and what budget do I have? So this is going to give you a good idea. And I'm going to put that link down in the description below so you can check it out. Now, this 90-day of researching, very important. Your research is really going to be conducted primarily on the Turo platform, and you're going to want to track it. And again, I'm going to show you exactly how. Now, this is going to be a very quick run through of how to do that market research and the key markers to look for. But again, if you want to do a deep dive, you can check out my course at powerhost.club. So now that you have an idea of what you can afford and roughly how much you want to spend, you're going to go online and do a little bit of car shopping and kind of think to yourself, okay, well, that means that could potentially buy me a Jeep Wrangler, for example. So and that kind of aligns with the type of car that you want to list. And now you want to go on Turo and figure out, okay, well, if I do get a Jeep Wrangler, does it make me money, and is it going to make me the most amount of money? And that's how we conduct market research. So let's get going so I can show you exactly how to do this. So we're going to pick, let's just go to Los Angeles, for example. So you're gonna go into your search, and you always wanna search at least a few weeks out. And the reason why we do that is because we wanna get a true picture of what the inventory is, meaning any cars that are rented right now, they're not gonna show up in the search, so we don't get to see every possibility that's out there. But if we search pretty far out, then we're likely gonna see a more variety, I should say, of cars on the platform. So let's say you search way out, and now you have a potential list of cars that you think could potentially work well. And as you browse through Turo, it's going to give you ideas about more cars, because you're going to see certain cars that are listed, certain cars that have really racked up a lot of trips, certain cars that are going to, catch your eye and make you think, hey, well, you know what? I've been thinking about this Tesla Model S. I love Teslas. They're really reliable. They don't require too much maintenance. It seems like it has a lot of trips, and it's getting a very decent day rate. And that sounds appeasing to me. It's potentially something that I want to look into. So what you want to do is kind of save this listing, because we're going to come back to it and look at it. And you're going to continue to do the same thing the whole way through. You're going to continue to search and kind of see which cars potentially align with what you want to purchase. And as things stand out to you, you're going to open them up, and then we're going to start tracking these vehicles. So let's just say this BMW 4 Series. I like to usually look for cars that have at least 50 trips on them, because then that gives me enough data points, which I'm going to show you guys. So let's open that up. Now let's say, hey, you know what? This Subaru Crosstrek also looks very interesting to me. Maybe it appeals to the type of area that you live in. Maybe people are really into doing outdoorsy things, and they want to go travel and go to national parks and things. So the Subaru would be a nice fit. So these are all the things that you're going to think about. Now, once you go into these listings, this is where market research becomes very important, right? Because again, we go through seasons. We go through times when business is really good. People are traveling, it's the holidays, or maybe it's summer and people are on vacation. And then we'll enter times when it's kind of dead, right? Maybe just right after the holidays, people have spent their disposable income, so they're not traveling as much. And so we're going to see dead times. That's why I say 90 days, because you'll typically encounter times that are busy and that are slow. And then that's going to give you a gauge of, okay, best case scenario, when cars are performing really well, this is what a really good month could look like. And when cars aren't performing well, this is what a very slow month could look like. And can I make my car payments in a worst case scenario when business is really slow? So you see here, all these factors coming together is what is going to help you determine if you're purchasing the right car at the right price and if you can afford it. And that's why we want to look at that. So real quick, zipping through market research, we're going to go here and we're looking at the Subaru. So right now it's November. So I want to see how November is performing. Now already you can see from November by the days that are dashed out, that's giving us a general glimpse of how many days are already booked up on this person's calendar. Now we can also see price points by hovering over the days to get an understanding for, okay, what is the average price per day that these cars are going for in the month of November? And now on average, if we come back on November 30th and we look at this calendar and we see, okay, roughly, you know what, it was out for 20 days. 20 days times $65 per day, that's my gross profit that I'm bringing in before paying for Turo's insurance, your host protection plan, and any additional costs. And if this is overwhelming, don't worry, because I'm going to show it to you all on a spreadsheet, but just stay with me. Now, the one thing to note is that you can't go back and look at past performance. You can only look at the current month and future months. So we can already see for this Subaru, they've already snagged a Christmas booking coming up in the future. So that's how you can track these listings and get a feel for, okay, what are the day rates and how often are they going out? Those two numbers are very, very important. Now, you're going to do the same thing over a 3-month period for all the listings that look very interesting to you. You're going to go into them, you're going to look at their calendars, how many days are they getting booked up, and at what price point. And then what you're going to do is most likely create a spreadsheet for yourself, grab a notebook, jot it down manually, however you need to do it. what you can do is lay out like you're seeing on this spreadsheet, and I have to give credit to one of my Powerhouse.club private community members, Joseph, for creating this awesome spreadsheet. All credit goes to him because he did a fantastic job at this, such a spreadsheet wizard. So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna put out every single day, you're gonna list every single day of the month, and then you're going to have columns, and each column is the different listings that you are tracking. And every day you can plug in the day rate that you're seeing, because sometimes hosts have higher day rates on the weekends and lower day rates on the weekdays, right? Because it's not as busy. And basically what this is going to give you is a very clear snapshot of how many days a car is booked and at what price point. Now here you're seeing the revenue split, because we all pay a little portion over to Turo for allowing us to host on the platform and giving us some insurance protection. And so that's where you're going to be able to see, what your profit margin is going to end up looking like after you take out your expenses. So this is how you can utilize market research to really come to a strong conclusion on which cars are going to perform well. The key thing here though is that you really want to make sure that you are taking the time to do this. You don't want to just go out there and buy any car that you just felt like, oh, this car is going to perform well, or you feel like you really love this car, so surely it'll do well on the platform. Because remember, as renters, they do have demand for certain vehicles, and some perform better than others. And typically any amount of time that you put into a car is almost going to be identical regardless of which car it is. So you want to put your time into something that is going to bring you back the biggest returns in terms of revenue. So that's why market research is so incredibly important. All right, guys, before I get into step number 3, if you're liking this video so far, make sure you hit that like button. Now, the third thing that I would do is understand the car market and how to negotiate the best deal on a car. Now, for starters, one thing you should know when purchasing a car for Turo is that the rule of thumb is that you typically want to get at least 15 to 20% off of MSRP. So that means the sticker price. Why? Because when you list your car on Turo, you do accumulate more miles than you would if you drove that car personally, which means the value of that car is going to depreciate much faster. Now, in order to make up for the depreciation, you want to get a very good deal on the car. Not only that, but the better deal you get on the car, the more money you could make on a monthly basis, because your cost of ownership goes down. The problem is, though, that we have been in a very unusual landscape when it comes to the car market. In 2021 and in 2022, car prices have soared through the roof because of supply chain shortages and crazy amounts of demand. Now, we are finally in a position to where the market is tipping, but it's not quite there yet, which is why if you're positioning yourself to purchase a car and get started on Turo in 2023, it's going to be a much better time than what I've seen in the last 15 to 18 months, because the car deals are getting better. And it's literally one of the most important things. Without a good deal on a car, there goes all of your profitability and your ability to make money on a vehicle. So it's been a long time coming. And just for reference, I myself have not bought a car in the last year. This is the first time ever that I haven't purchased a car for Turo in this past year, because prices were just way too high and it didn't make sense. But in 2023, hopefully that's going to change and we can once again buy cars. Now, the tools that you want to use to make the best informed decision on whether or not the prices make sense and if you're getting a good deal. My favorite tool that I'm going to walk you guys through right here, again, link will be down in the description below, is the Car Guru's price trend graph. This thing is amazing. I love looking at it, and I want to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Now, on this chart here, you can see that I have the date set from the January 1st of 2020 to present day. And you can just see how car prices have absolutely skyrocketed. I mean, it's insane that this is what cars are going for. But if you look further down on the breakdown of the different categories and the different vehicles, we can already see a lot of red. And what all these negative percentages mean is that car prices are finally starting to come down, which is why I love looking at this graph. Now we can see that where the tipping point was, which was right about here. So that's telling us that car prices are starting to come down. Now here's what you're going to want to do to utilize this tool for yourself. So now we're making the assumption you've gotten the education, you're still learning, you've done your market research, and you have a handful of cars that you're interested in potentially purchasing, and you want to get that good deal now, right? So let's just say, for example, you're thinking about getting a BMW for Turo, but you want to understand, well, how do I know if I'm getting a good deal? Do the prices make sense? This is where this tool is extremely useful. You're going to come down here, you're going to mark the different cars, let's say for BMW, that you think, might be potentially good fits for Turo. And then you're going to come back up here. Let's go ahead and adjust our calendar to reflect 2020. And the reason why I do Jan 1 of 2020 is because that's probably the last time where we've seen some normalcy in the market before everything went down, as we all know. So now this is going to give us a clear picture of, how were things in January of 2020. For example, a BMW X5 was roughly around $31,000. Where is it today? It's at about $36,782. So it's gone up pretty significantly, almost $7,000. So now as prices come down, you want to see how close can you get back to normalcy. Now, of course, we're not market makers or predictors, and you can never tell what's going to happen in a market. But what we can do is use logic and say, hey, the closer we can get to those levels of 2020, the more we know that we're getting ourselves into a better position in terms of price. Why is that so crucial? Because just because a car is priced high, because we're in unusual times, doesn't mean that you're going to get a higher day rate on the Turo marketplace. So because your car is more expensive doesn't mean a renter is willing to pay more for it. Every car, every category has a price ceiling, meaning the maximum a renter is willing to pay for that car based on what they think the value is. So even though your car payments might be super high, they might not think it's worth it, which is why you need to get a good deal, because every car has a cap on how much of a day rate it can get. So this is really what's going to help you kind of look at cars and really look at it from an extremely clear perspective and see, okay, this is where prices were, this is where they are today, and here's where they're headed, and this is where we want to be, exactly as we see in this graph. So before you go shopping for a car, you need to look at where have things gone in terms of prices. How much have prices come down? And we can see right here in the last 30 days, prices have dropped, on average 1 to 2%. In the last 90 days, we're seeing 4 or 5 percentage points in drop. And that's really good. And this trend is going to continue. And that's going to help you determine, okay, when you go into a dealership, based on the price trends that this is where the prices are. And so that way you can make sure no one's overcharging you, and then you can negotiate from that level. So that's going to be really important. And also why 2023 is weird is because interest rates are extremely high. So when you're financing or you're leasing, you're going to have to pay interest on that loan that you get. And what we know right now is that interest rates are higher than we've seen in an extremely long time. And these measures to increase interest rates have taken place because inflation is very high and the Fed wants to help bring demand down so that prices can slowly start to come down. And we do that by way of increasing inflation. Now, from Edmunds.com, I love this sort of APR or interest rate tracker, right? It's going to give you a good idea of where things stand. And this is something that you're going to want to look at over the next 3 to 4 months as we go into the new year. Now we can see here, looking back through May and up until October, how the interest rates for new cars and used cars have steadily gone up. And so what we're going to watch out for in November, December, January, February is which way do those interest rates trend. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they start to come down, but they may not. And it's very important to keep an eye on this because it is going to add to the cost of ownership when you purchase the vehicle. So just because car prices come down, it doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a good deal if you're in interest rates are really high, because that's again going to increase the cost. So you want both things to be somewhat leveled so that it makes sense when you get into that purchase. Now, let's say, we get a few months out and interest rates are still high. What can you do about that? Two things. One, you can negotiate the cost of the car even further down. And given what's happening, it seems like dealerships will be hurting for sales. And so you will finally be in a position to where you can really negotiate some extremely good deals. And two, you can secure financing through other methods such as credit unions, who are extremely competitive when it comes to interest rates, and you can get yourself a really good deal. So these are the two tools that I would say that you want to keep an eye out. This is going to kind of help you understand what is going on in the market in terms of car prices and interest rates, and which way everything is trending, so that okay, this is where normal used to be. Then things went crazy, but hey, things are coming back down. And this is what my goal is. So how close to that can we get? And that's how you know that you'll be in a good position to get into a car. So that's what's a little bit different about getting started on Turo in 2023, is that the market and the economy is just so different than anything we've ever seen. So hopefully these things all end up working in our favor, and we have a very strong year on Turo in 2023. But you absolutely want to make sure that you educate yourself, that you do at least 90 days of market research, and you understand how to best purchase a vehicle for Turo. Now, I've been considering making a car guide. So if you're interested in getting a car buying guide, I'm happy to put one out there for you guys. Just drop a comment below saying, yes, I want the car guide, and I will definitely get that out there for you guys. Now, if you want to learn more about the perfect formula, like the actual equation that you need to exercise when you're purchasing a car to make sure you're getting a good deal and you've done all your research correctly, you're going to want to check out this video that I made recently, and I'm going to walk you through the exact equation, the exact mathematical formula that I use to buy my own cars, and that way you can utilize that as well.